Um, I was wondering, we had to restart this video, so I was wondering what could be wrong. So if you caught me saying could it be the network, that was what was going on. Thank you so much. Today we're having the conversation what it means to train up a child. What does it even mean to train up a child? And we have our amazing guest, RONKEPOSH, joining in. So she's here now. We'll just send in an invite. We're having a bit of a trouble. Thank you to everybody that is tuning in. We're having a bit of trouble before, but let's see how it goes now. I just sent an invite. I hope that it works out perfectly well. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Good morning, RONKEPOSH. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And thank you so much for everything that you do. And you look good. I like your glasses and everything in between. And thank you for your commentaries. I have to really, I always enjoy it when you comment on just different things regarding parenting and you teach us from there. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll just dive right into reading just a bit about RONKEPOSH, a bio, and then we'll start out with the conversation. Ronke Adeni, fondly called RONKEPOSH, is a fun-loving, energetic, and enthusiastic lady. She's a lover of dogs, a wife, a mom. She holds a BSc in biochemistry from Queen Mary University of London and a master's degree in business administration from the University of Hull in the United Kingdom. RONKEPOSH is a certified and experienced Montessori directress. She received her training from the Modern Montessori Institute in London and holds a postgraduate diploma in education. She has vast experience in banking, education, the children entertainment. She owns the best preschool and primary school in Ikoyi, Lagos, Nigeria, called Leposhe. She's the founder of the Help at Home initiative, which focuses on parenting in the 21st century and proper recruitment of domestic workers in home in order to prevent risk to families. She is the author of the best-selling book for children, Parenting Right Kid 101, and the newly published 100 Tips to Curb the Beating and the Shouting, amongst other books. Thank you so much. Please feel free to. We're going to talk a bit more about that in the course of the conversation, where you can get our books, courses, and you can have sessions where you get. So just dive right into the conversation. Okay. RONKEPOSH, how are you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm great. A little sleepy. I had to get up early to go on TVC this morning. So
Then
I went to bed about 1 a.m. and then I was up at 5. So I'm a bit dozy, but I'll make it through the next hour.
yes, no problem. Thank you very much for being here. Okay, so RONKEPOSH, today when I reached out to you, one of the most important burden that I've been carrying was also the millennial generation and of course the young Gen Z parents and the way they are currently parenting. I do not personally, from some examples that I've seen, I do not see people having visionary parenting where they're parenting towards the future. It's all about how they are feeling in the moment, maybe how having their children makes them feel. So I would like you to start out with, which is the question of today's conversation. What really does it even mean to train up a child? So a woman or a family, they're expecting or they have just given birth to a newborn instead of twins, triplets, whatever the case may be. What are the first things they should be thinking about and talking about regarding training up their children?
I think when one is to raise a child, one needs to think about the outcome. What's the outcome of that child? So my own child recently became an adult in March. glory of God, and I look back and I think, oh wow, what did God really want me to do?
Okay, I think maybe a call is coming in for you.
Sorry, a call came in.
Yeah.
So, what is the outcome? What is it supposed to do from when that child is born till that child is 18 years old? And now that I have that 18-year-old, I'm looking, I'm thinking, what are those things that I have done to ensure that I have a wholesome child? So it's beyond giving food, clothing, and shelter and education, which are fundamental human rights. It's beyond that now, knowing with studies, with research, and just even observing and just raising a child. Raising a child is tell this person by a text that I will call back.
Okay, yes, please. Yes, if not, the person will keep calling. All right, so please send in your questions. You can use the question button if you've got specific questions. There are things that you may be struggling with, things you may be ashamed of talking about, or you don't even know how to, or some challenges that you're probably facing. So I would like you to please use that. And that's why we're having this conversation, but we have to keep it to, we're going to give it in like, say the next 40 minutes or so, we should be done. So please let us maximize this opportunity. RONKEPOSH should be back just due to the phone call. She just needs to let the person know that she would be back based on the consistency of the call. Once she's back here, we'll continue with the conversation. All right, I think she's back. Okay, once she's back, we'll continue with the conversation. Recently, there was a situation where a where a young teacher came out to, it was a video that went viral. It didn't happen in Nigeria, but it was something that happened in the Black community, where there was a young teacher who came out crying because she was so frustrated with how the children that she was training and mentoring in that dance class would not just listen to instruction. So these are some of the things we are going to talk about. How do you cope with discipline? What's the difference between disciplining a child versus, I'm trying to get, what's the difference between disciplining a child versus pampering? And how can you discipline without beatings? These are some of the things, or without flogging necessarily. They're some of the things that we'll be learning in today's conversation. All right, our guest is back, so just continue from where we stopped. Okay, she's back on it.
Okay, and I didn't see you this time again.
Oh, I don't know why this is going on. Okay, so that means I have to, oh, no, let me remove you from the live. Okay. Please, RONKEPOSH, can you leave the live and maybe come back? Because I can't even see you to remove you. It's an interesting one by Instagram. Okay, so I guess we'll be back shortly. Don't know why it is acting this way. Okay, she's back. Okay, yes, welcome back. Thank you so much for coming back on. You were sharing, you were saying, you were explaining to us about how your daughter turned 18 and some of the things that you picked from the process of parenting.
Yes. So it's beyond the food, clothing, and the shelter and education. I think I mentioned that. I think raising a child is raising a child spiritually, emotionally, mentally, ensuring that the child is wholesome. So it's not a physical thing that a lot of people assume that it is. You're raising a child, and yes, the child has nice hair, nice, they go to a nice school, and carry a nice bag, speak well. That's not really the core of parenting. I think the core of parenting is having an emotionally connected child, a child that is connected to himself or herself and his or her family, a child that is stable and has grown up to be able to be a significant contributor in society or in the circle of influence. I think that is what parenting really is, what the outcome of it is, the things that you do to ensure that you have someone that is stable, someone that is balanced, someone that is wholesome. Yes.
Okay. So could you please talk about some parents so based on the way they were treated or disciplined, because it wasn't really pleasant, they feel that there should be no discipline at all for their children. So for some people, maybe they don't know it, but they are unintentionally also raising spoiled children. Some don't greet, some don't know how to talk, some don't even know how to just live life, of course, from their perspective within their age range. Could you talk to us a bit more about how parents who want to discipline their children can discipline without necessarily beating or flogging, but without also spoiling them?
So I offered a book called 101 Tips to Curb the Beating and the Shouting. And in that book, I took people on a journey to understand that those children that we have are not necessarily our children. They are gifts. We are just stewards of these children. We're just supposed to look after them for a period of time. They're actually God's children. So when you have a child, you have to understand that there has to be a lot of love and a lot of care. And there has to be a lot of attachment to that child in order to raise that child. So when it comes to discipline, what a lot of people do is that they punish their children. They assume that punishment and discipline are the same. And to discipline a child is to correct a child in love. Striking a child is not correction in love. When we correct a child and when we are emotionally connected to a child, you find that that child is easier to raise. But a child that is always abandoned, neglected, doesn't feel connected to the parent, that child will do a lot of things to gain attention. So that child that you call stubborn is really doing that because that child is trying to gain your attention. So it's important that when parents have children, they know the love languages of their children, they understand the personality types of their children, they understand the traits of that child. In knowing so, then you will be able to manage discipline because anything that is not managed is subject to abuse. So there's no point saying that, oh, I don't want to discipline my child because I don't want, for whatever reason it is, because if you don't discipline your child, there's going to be abuse, whether you intentionally do it or not. Everything in life needs to be managed, otherwise it will be abused. Water is managed, air is managed, otherwise we have all sorts of pollution. Everything in life needs to be managed, including our children.
Okay. So you spoke about understanding the child, the traits, the personality, the love language. For a parent who is clueless, how can they get started? Because they're wondering, this child doesn't even know how to express themselves yet. So how can I deduce or get those things?
Well, now that you're here, you can go to my YouTube channel. It's called RONKEPOSH. Subscribe there and watch the videos. You can follow me on Instagram. I talk about things like that. The love language. There are books about love language. It's available on the internet. There are so many resources. The only thing about the internet is that you might not know how to filter when you see the resources on the internet. But these things are available online. There are parenting courses that are available that you can take. There are many ways. Send me a DM if you are interested in knowing some of these things. But a good start is follow RONKEPOSH on Instagram, on YouTube. I have resources about these topics that you have mentioned on there.
Okay, on how to. So for those who have those questions, they'll get it answered through, well, of course, when they reach out and of course via your YouTube channel. I want to get, what is your perspective on, say, community parenting? It used to there used to be a saying that it takes a village to raise a child, but we seem to be in a generation and time where people are minding their business more than ever, and nobody wants to get involved with correcting someone else's child if they do wrong outside. So what's your perspective on correcting children when you see them do wrong outside, not necessarily your own children, but just that culture of correcting children, of course in love, when you see that they are going astray outside, which it seems like though we are losing in this time and age?
Okay, I think historically a lot of people had a lot of shared values, a lot of shared beliefs. But now we find that people don't necessarily have a lot of shared beliefs. So a lot of people, for example, they are rude to people around them. Their parents don't greet, so their children don't greet. You know, simple things. So you find that values are not necessarily shared anymore. So when it comes to parenting as a community, you have to ensure that you build your own community intentionally. Who are the people that are in your community? Who are the people that you can call your community members? Because it's not everybody that will collect your child for one thing or the other that will do it in the right way.
Yes.
So you have to be very selective. So if your child should go for maybe a play date with a friend, that friend's parents, do they share the same values with you? Are they going to correct your child in love, or they're going to beat your child? Are they going to expose your child to all sorts of rubbish cartoons that are out there, for example, and you don't allow such things in your home? So whatever the case may be, whatever your community, whatever your environment, whatever you expose your child to, you have to ensure that it's in alignment with your own values.
Okay. There are parents who are trying their best to raise their children, but they still have this fear of when this child goes to school, they may get corrupt. So what would you say to such young parents who are really bothered? They're trying their best, they're going to invest in parenting and all that, but they're bothered about how their children are going to be corrupted by other parents who are not putting in the investment. What's the art of parenting in this kind of dynamics where you have people who are not paying attention to their children and you don't want them to corrupt yours?
Okay, so at Leposhe school, for example, your child can't come here and become corrupt. So when you talk about the schools, which sort of schools are you taking your children to? Typically, a lot of people take their children to schools because everybody else is going there. Whether it suits their child or not, to take their children there. So whatever they meet there is whatever they accept. You need to do your research and find out. I don't have a child in my school that is corrupt and they were hearing about the child is touching body parts and we're 13 years old. We've not heard anything like that, and we will never hear anything like that because it's not part of our values. There's no room for it at all. There's absolutely no room for it. So if you take your child, like you say, the child will be corrupt, it's because the environment in which you have taken your child to is not the best of environments. That's just what it is. And you must also ensure that when you send your child out there, that you equip your child with tools to be able to withstand and all sorts of peer pressure, peer influences. Your child must be able to withstand those sort of things as the child grows up. But when you're talking about preschool, we're talking about early years, primary school, what's there to be corrupt about? That means that a lot of work is not being done. A lot of work has to be done to ensure that schools have values, just like all organizations have values. Schools have values. What are the values that they say they have, not just on paper? What are the values that they live by as a school? Do you agree to those values? Are they in alignment with your own values? And if you've checked all the boxes, then your child can be in that school. Your child can continue in that school and thrive. So you must be very mindful. You can't just put your child in the school because you want to hobnob with rich people, and then you go there and then anything you find there, you find children that are not disciplined, children that are struggling to have any kind of home training, then your children will hobnob with those people as well. So we have to be very, very careful about the sort of environment that we choose to put our children in. Stop copying people. Do your own research. Find your own unique school for your child. Child A went to this school does not mean that it will be. Child B will go to the same school. It may not work for them. Different things work for different children.
Okay. As a school owner, I would like to get your perspective on there seems to be some sort of growing increase in parents rather, confronting teachers of schools, and some even recording it, putting it out, when it seems as though the teacher disciplines the child. Now, discipline, the situations I've seen or heard about, I'm not talking about flog the child to pieces, but maybe correct the child, and then the parent is angry about it, and then comes to school, and before you know, everybody is arguing. As a school owner, what I would like you to share your thoughts regarding that, and what can schools do to have a bit more structure where their values can be put out there and parents can understand, so that parents are not coming to fight them if they leave it out.
As long as schools continue to worship parents and collect money without letting them understand that they have policies and rules that guide their operations, you will always have issues. If the school has been bought by the parents, and when I say bought, I mean that the parents are the one calling all the shots. They don't follow the rules. They don't follow all the policies. They don't align with it. Then they will do anything. But when you have a school that has a structure that says that if your child should do A, B is going to happen. If your child should do C, D is going to happen. And you have to agree to it. And that's the nature of what we have at Leposhe School. The parents that, I mean, we don't even really have naughty kids, but even if they are being, if they are doing something that is not right, sometimes I don't even have to breathe down their necks. You just have to tell the parents, because the kind of parents that we have at Leposhe School, they're intentional parents. They will quickly auto-correct whatever the issue is. So you must be able to collaborate with the parents in your school. Those sort of things need to be happening in schools.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Okay, I would like to speak about, you spoke about the different parts of parenting, which is spiritual, emotional. What do parents need to know? The male, female, that's the father and the mother. What do they need to know in terms of getting started with emotionally bonding with their children?
Well, they need to learn different aspects of parenting. I keep saying to people that you have to learn. Parenting is not innate. Parenting is not something that you just know how to do. You have to learn it, especially now that things are significantly different in the digital era. You have to learn how to parent. You have to learn how to connect with your children. These are skills that are learned. There are books, there are courses, there are people that talk about it online, but you need to learn how to connect with your children. Some people they've never hugged their parents. They don't hug their parents. They don't connect with their parents. They don't tell their parents that they love them. And their parents don't say it. Maybe they will give them lots of food or give them pocket money. That's how they express love. How do they need to understand how to express love based on the child's love language? It has to be learned. It's not just something that appears miraculously. The same applies to the values. It has to be learned. I have a course link in my bio, family values implementation. How do you implement values? How do you set up values for your family? Don't just assume that everybody knows what to do. If they see your child and your child is called Adeni, they have to know that this is how Adeni's behave. They will have to say, oh wow, I'm not surprised that she's RONKEPOSH's child. She speaks so well. I'm not surprised that she's RONKEPOSH's child. Her mother is an educator and she behaves appropriately. Your values has to be understood by your children, and their actions have to be in alignment with the values that you have set for them as a family.
So my next question is on young parents training siblings without showing one favoritism or seem to becoming hard on one over the other. What are your tips for how young parents can train multiple children, whether they are triplets or one is older than the other, or they're just training 3 children at once? What are your tips on how they can train them individual? Because you've spoken about the importance of the connection and also knowing each child's love language, traits, and all of that. So how can they do that effectively?
The more children that one has, the more work that the person has to do. I'll say that again. The more children that somebody has, the more work that they have to do. So you will have to learn the personality types of the 3 children that you have. You would like to learn about their traits. And you will do a lot of work. You have to have notebooks, journals for each child. You have to learn about what does this child like. How will I discipline this one? Even if you have triplets, you might not discipline them in the same way. Even if you have 4 children. Anything that you apply, there can't be a blanket solution all the time for those children. You have to learn to separate according to the traits of each unique child. That's what the parents will have to do. That's the approach that they have to do. It's not an easy task, but it's a possible task.
Okay, Ronkeposh, so people really want to know how to manage a busy schedule with parenting, because they're like, okay, so I know that I have to parent my child, I know that I have to be there, but I'm also really stuck in this job and I'm trying my best to provide financially for the child, which is important. And I don't know if I have all this time in truth to be able to radically do all of these things that I'm learning. Are there tips for such people who find themselves in such hard place?
So even before I address that, I would always say that prevention is better than cure. So if there's a single person listening to this, the important thing is that you plan before you have the children. What people do is that they'll get the children, they'll have those children, then they start asking this sort of question: how do I now manage? If you had planned before, maybe you wouldn't have the children back to back. If you had planned before, maybe you won't have any children. If you had planned before, maybe you will space them out better. Because what happens is that when the institution is at hand, it's harder to manage. And you would usually have to sacrifice something in the interest of raising your children holistically. Something usually has to give when things like this happen. Otherwise, you will have to depend on domestic workers, support of the grandparents and family, or whoever it is, friends, that can help you to raise your child.
Okay, so to answer, just to layer on this particular question, you've shared some foundational things that we should know before we start out in parenting. What I would say is, to a person who is about to have children, or they are thinking of planning to have children, just like you've said, I know some of the things that we've talked about are some of the things that they should pay attention to. What else? Should they already start reading and going through these courses and videos that you're talking about? Or what else should they pay attention to as they prepare to parent? And is there a right time for a person to say, okay, this is the right time for me to start parenting now?
I have a WhatsApp group, an inner circle WhatsApp group. It's a paid community. I run it with Fina, Chichi, Ikoyi. We run it together, and we share with parents on a daily basis. Now, in that WhatsApp group, I have a single dad, not a single dad. I have a single man in the group. He's not married, and he doesn't have any kids, but he's there to learn. So what happens is that a lot of people will go and do marriage counseling, but they don't do parenting counseling. They don't teach them anything about parenting. So they just go and they just become parents, and they just wing it or do whatever it is that they think their friends or their parents did. But parenting needs to be learned. It's not innate. It's not an innate skill. It's an assumption that it is innate. To care for your child, to want, to desire to give them food, and it's, part of that can be innate. But to actually emotionally connect with your child on another level, it usually has to be learned. It usually has to be learned.
Okay.
So the best time to start is now, was yesterday, and the next best time is now.
There are people who they are not ready for parenting at the moment, but there's the societal pressure as a result of their age. I'm not even talking about people in the context of marriage. What would you say to such people? And societal pressure means maybe their in-laws, people telling them, maybe age shaming them, oh, you're getting to this age, you should do this, you should do that. How would you say a person should be able to maturely balance societal pressure versus their own readiness for having children?
Well, that again is a self-esteem issue. You have to be self-confident. You have to be self-assured. You have to know who you are and what you want. If you don't, then you always succumb to the pressures of society, because the pressures of society will never go away. They will always be there. They will expect you to get married at a certain time. They will expect you to have a certain kind of job. If you have children, they will expect you to have so many children. If you have girls, they will expect you to have boys. If you have boys, they will expect you to have girls. There's always an expectation. So you have to live a life that pleases God and you have to live a life that pleases you. So, say for example, let me use myself as a societal pressure. When I got married many years ago, I didn't have kids for 4 years after I got married. It was intentional. It wasn't because we were looking for any child. It was intentional because I had just finished my master's. I was living in the UK and I did not have work experience. In the UK, it is important that you have work experience. Otherwise, you will tell you that you're overqualified. So we waited for 4 years before we tried to start a family. Yeah. Now, in that time, the people asked if we're going to have babies. And of course, we had questions, people like that. But was there pressure? I think pressure is what you allow. Pressure is what you allow into your life. Okay, so I had a girl. I still have a girl, and I will always have a girl. So help her God, of course, God. I have a girl, and then they will expect you. Some people will say they are praying for me to have a son. I'm not looking for a son. I don't need a son. I have more than enough in that one child. That one child has done significantly more than some people's 10 children has done. Already she's an multiple award winner. She's just one child. Is a multiple award winner. Head girl in her school, Nigeria, head girl in her school, abroad, also public speaker, DJ. I can list her, is endless. So it's not by the quantity, it's by the quality. So I don't really care what people think in society. So people have to get to the point where they don't care what people think in society. It's not the norm to have one child. It's not the norm to have. So I've even defied everything. I have just one, but they expect you to have more. I have a girl, they expect you to have a boy, and I'm content. I'm not carrying any child to heaven. I want her to, she must make heaven, and she will make heaven. But we're not going to carry and identify as mother and child in heaven. We're all going to identify as children of God. It's not a trophy, and children are not a bragging right. Contrary to what we see online and what people do, and they say mini me. There's no child that is a mini you. Every child is a whole individual. Every child is a unique individual. So there's nothing like mini me. There's nothing like my child, this one. Your child is your child. It's an entity, and by the time the child is 18-ish, mine left home at 16. So by the time you're 16, 18, many of them have left home. In fact, these days, some people are putting children in primary school, they've left home. So really, we have to understand that you can't succumb to the pressures of society. They will always talk. They will always have something to say. No matter what phase you are in life, somebody will have something to say. So you just can't be bothered. Someone like me, I can't even say I have a thick skin. I just cannot be bothered. If anything you want to say. I'm just living my best life, and I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm happy on a daily basis. I don't care if somebody, as my friend, has 10 children, 50 children. It doesn't do me anything, because my purpose on earth is not to have children. My purpose on earth is to glorify God. It's not to get children. And somebody is going to quote and say the Bible says we should be fruitful and multiply. We should be fruitful and we should multiply in wherever it is that we find ourselves. It could be in our job, in our ministries, anywhere you find yourself, be fruitful and multiply. It's not by virtue of having children. That's not what it is. Just be productive. Jesus didn't have children, biological children. Paul didn't have biological children. There are people that did great and mighty things in the Bible that didn't have biological children. So it's not by virtue of having biological children at all. We are all adopted of the Lord. And for all those people that don't want to adopt children, maybe this is God telling you to go and adopt. Because you yourself, you are adopted of the Lord. You are not God's biological child. None of us are biological children of God. We're all adopted of God. So we must understand that we can't just let all these sort of things to bother us. All the things that people make a big deal in life, generally, they're not a big deal to me. And I don't say this loosely, because when we were planning family, I wasn't planning to have one child. But by the time I realized that, okay, I have one child, to have more children, I have to be going here and there. I'm not interested in that. It's not that deep. For me, please.
Yeah.
I'm very careful, because people are going to say she said this. For me, it's not that deep. Having children is not that deep. It's good to have, but it's not that deep. If I don't have biological children, I will adopt if I want children. If I don't have biological children, I will adopt. If I don't even have husband and I've reached my 40s or my late 30s, I will freeze my eggs. I am unconventional. I don't really care what people say. I'm not really bothered about society. And I don't really, really have to follow the norms of society if they don't serve me. They will talk. Whether you have the job biologically, they will say something happened. You didn't have a vaginal birth as opposed to cesarean section. There's always something to say. People don't stop talking. So you're not going to live your life because people are talking and you're not ready. Anyone that is not ready for criticism is not ready to be great. Anyone that's not ready for criticism is not ready to fulfill what it is that God has called them to do on earth. So you have to be ready for all the basbos, as they call it in Nigeria. Just be ready for it in this life, regardless.
Okay. I think this is a good time to actually, because I already prepared this question for you. There are still people, unfortunately, there's a lot of awareness and orientation out there, but there are still people who feel, well, I have a boy child, I'm greater. Oh, this person has a girl child, they are lesser. Or the person even feeling like I have girl children or I have girls, I'm still looking for boys. So there's something still missing in my life. Of course, this one is not even about pressure. It has to do with the person or the family. I actually know a family who the man was like, he's looking for, like he's still going because he needs a boy. Please, what would you say to such people, and how can we really balance things once and for all in your perspective to let people know that a child is a human and is a representative of God, and we should stop this boy child, girl child thing that makes it look like one is higher than the other?
I don't think it's going to go away. The boy child thing. It's not. I don't think it's going to go away. The important thing is that we raise girls that are strong. I can tell you that, I want to be very careful. My father loves me very, very much. In fact, he was one that was calling me. This morning, he's aware of the fact that I've been on TVC. He's my greatest he's my greatest cheerleader. He's always there. It's not about a boy child for him. He gets it. I've not achieved everything I want to do in life, but I've achieved significantly more than many men have achieved. It's about raising a girl child that can do. There are many women out there, so many names out there that are doing great things. The reason why people preferred boys at that time was because the girls were kept in the homes to cook, clean, and look after the children. They were not educated. And another reason was because a lot of people believe in this thing called family name, irrespective of how useless and how unknown their family names are. A lot of people have died and they are saying they're keeping family name and they have 1 million sons. And then you say, what is their name? They say Shikulukubangoshi. What does Shikulukubangoshi? We've not even heard it before. Absolutely nothing. You don't know jack about the so-called family name that they're trying to preserve. Now, there's a new perspective that I discovered not too long ago, which is the fact that the greatest names are not family names. The greatest names are not necessarily family names. Say, for example, Cleopatra, Moses, Obama, Mandela, Oprah. I can go on and on. They're not necessarily family names. RONKEPOSH. They're not necessarily family names. The greatest names are not necessarily family names. So we're just living a myth. We're just lying to ourselves. And if you continue to allow people to instruct you, you see, all these things are artificial construct designed by men, by human beings. And if you continue to allow those things to shape your life, you're not going to go far in life. You won't go far. You will not go far. So you can't keep listening to what society dictates. If it serves you, fine. If it does not serve you, then fine. But I'm not going to be hung up about I have a son, I don't have a son, one family name or no family name. No. I was born Ronke Adeni. Yes. And I am going to die Ronke Adeni. Yes. I'm not going to change my name. That is my name. And I keep telling people that I'm not don't go and follow me and then go and get into trouble. But I'm not a conventional, you must be able to withstand the heat that comes with things like that. So a lot of the choices that I have made, I have sacrificed, I have lost, I have been criticized, I've been all sorts of things have happened, but I'm okay. I can withstand that heat. If you know that you cannot withstand the heat, then don't follow what I'm saying. Don't follow what I'm saying. I'm not for the boy child. I'm not for the girl child. I'm just for a human being, humanity. So whatever it is that you have, whether you have a boy or a girl, you have a fantastic human being. I have an 18-year-old girl, and if you give me 10 sons, I won't trade her. I will not trade her. I will not trade her. I've not seen one boy in this life that I said, God, I wish I had this son over that girl. Tell me that you will give me 5 children, 3 children. I will not do it. Just give me her. This was not the plan when I got married. But now that it is the plan, I am so okay with it. Now that I know that she will go to heaven, but I'm not carrying her head to heaven. We all have our own lives. I know that when we get to heaven, we're all going to be children of God, not mommy and daddy and children and stuff like that. Let us live a life of purpose. Let us live a life that makes sense. Children are not accessories. They're not bragging rights. They don't make us feel better. You have a child does not make you better than someone that doesn't have a child. No. You have a child does not make you have, if you like, have 50 children. They're not better than the person that doesn't have a child. You are called to be a child of God. It is optional to be a mother or father. And it is optional to be a wife or husband. The only mandatory thing is that you must be a good child of God. That's it. You don't have to be a parent. You don't have to be a spouse. But you must be a child of God. And you must be complete, regardless. That same Jesus that we're all calling his name didn't have children, biological children. Paul didn't have biological children. Yeah? So there are people, great people, that didn't have biological children and getting on with it. Oprah doesn't have biological children.
Okay, this perspective, thank you for sharing this with us, the perspective of the fact that you've discovered, and if we even check through time, we'll see that the greatest names are not necessarily family names.
They're not
So,
necessarily family names. I mean, I did a list, I was doing a research, and if you see the names that came out, Beethoven, Aristotle, so many names, they're not family names. They are first names. Many of the greatest names are first names. They're not necessarily family names. If you
Mother
want to preserve
Teresa.
your family name, that one is your business. I mean, if you want to preserve your spouse's family name, that one is your business. But there's some of us that choose to preserve our first name, like me. I choose to preserve my first name. Whatever your name is, must be able to open doors. Those people that are saying that, oh, they want the family name to continue. Those family names don't open doors. They'll call the name now. Shugulugumango. It can't open any door. It can't open any door. No connection. Nobody will say, are you this, are you that? At least even this my small name, I know the doors that it has opened for people. When they say, oh, I'm coming from this person, or I worked with RONKEPOSH at this place and blah blah blah, and they will get an opportunity. Or the time when my daughter went for a program and they couldn't find her on the list, and she said she's RONKEPOSH's child, and they allowed her in. The same thing, there was an issue in school, and in school when she was in secondary school, and whoever it was in school were like, it was something to do with the fees, and they were like, there's no way RONKEPOSH would not have paid the fees of her child. Allow her. And by the time they called me, I was able to provide the receipts. Indeed, I had done it. I have built my name. I have built integrity around my name. So your name must be able to open doors. You don't just say,
Okay. Please, can you hear me? Because I cannot hear RONKEPOSH again. This is strange. Oh, okay. It is possible that our network kicked her out. We are concluding now. If you've got questions, just quickly use the question icon. She has been all back to back this morning, so we don't want to keep her past the next few minutes. Please, if you've got questions, just use the question icon to ask. I will take your question now. Other than that, we are wrapping up. We're still talking about what it means to train up a child. I'm sure that RONKEPOSH should be back on. It's just I think the network kicked that out. So at first I thought it was my own network, but it is a network. But I believe she'll join in. She'll join back in shortly. Thank you so much for being here. I don't take this at all for granted. If there's any question again that you would like to ask specifically, you can do that using the icon. And I am going to watch our TVC interview. It's always a great time with RONKEPOSH, honestly speaking, and I'm so happy that she's doing this with us at this time. We'll ask a few more questions, just a few, maybe 2 more or 3, and then we'll sign out. Okay, she's yet to join back in. Maybe it most likely is a network thing, so let me check in with her. Thank you for your patience. Please just stay tuned. She'll be back. She'll be back. It's just the network palaver. Oh, okay. Okay, I think she's... Oh, no, I'm not sure if she's the one. But I think I've seen her. Okay. Moments. Welcome. If you're joining in, we're still talking about what it means to train up a child. Please, if you can see me and hear me, can you indicate? I just want to be sure. If you can see me and hear me, can you indicate? I just want to be sure in the comments that it is not my network. If you can see me and hear me, if you can just indicate. Okay. Yes. Oh, okay. And so I'm not sure. Our guest is here. The problem is, I don't know why. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you to everybody that has shared. I'm trying to add you back, RONKEPOSH, but it's not even showing on the list. You're not even showing on the list of people viewing. I don't know if you can send a request from your side because you're not even showing. I'm trying to send you an invite, but it's not even. Yeah, I think she needs to leave and come back again. Okay, okay. Thank you. She said that she's going to rejoin. I mean, sometimes Instagram is like this. It's just okay. All right. I'll wait for you to be the one to send the request because I cannot even find you on the watch list, on the viewers list. Your name is not even there, which is interesting. All right, so you can just send in your question. Thank you so much for your patience, please, for staying up until this time. You can just send in your questions if you have. Other than that, I think I have 2 more questions or so, and then we'll close out this conversation. Thank you for being here. Our guest is going to join us back shortly, and then okay. RONKEPOSH, if you are sending the request in, I'm not seeing it. But if it takes more time, we can just save this one and I'll just start a new live and we can just conclude with that. If this one is going to take time. Yes, I can't even see her. I know that she'll be viewing, but it's not even showing here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to save this one. We're going to save this one as, okay, I was trying to save. Okay. Let's try this hand. I mean, this is really strange. I don't know why. Okay. I've seen that. So let me, at least I can see Leposhe school. So let me invite. Yes. Yes, ma. I can. I know that you are the one. So do you want to send? Okay, let me just try to invite. At least I can see the school's handle. I don't know why. It's really strange that thing just disappeared. Oof, right. Thank you for those who are encouraging with the. These are the issues with Instagram Live. But we're trying to use our school handle now. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to use our school handle to start the live. Okay, well, you know what, RONKEPOSH? Let me just save this one, then we'll restart the other one just within 7 to 10 minutes. We can close out. So let me end this live. Then we can just use the next live to conclude. I think that would just to save everybody's time. Thank you. But please, you can join us in the new video I'll be restarting. Thank you.